So, as you may know, Pokemon had some leaks the past week, particularly to do with some lore, or at least suggested lore for Pokemon. So, for this video, we're going to be ranking the stories by how dark they are. So, we will be putting them on a rank from S to E. I'm sure you've seen other tier videos before, and this will be somewhat like that, except, dark stories. So, I will read through them and we'll rank them. I believe this one is for Arceus. Yeah, I believe so. So, yep, we'll go ahead and get started then. Let's see, this is PMyth 07.1. In the past, when the boundaries between humans, nature, and Pokemon were unclear, there were two peoples in the world. The people who lived in the eastern part of the world lived in nature, living within, sorry, living within, living with Pokemon, who were both their family and food. That's interesting. I guess they eat their Pokemon even though they live with them. All right. To the people of the East, there was no difference between humans and Pokemon. Humans were the husband and wife of Pokemon. The moon and the stars, which indicate the presence of abundant nature, were protected by Ea, the god of time. Flying through the starry sky with the moon on its back was a giant dragon Pokemon. It had skin as clear as ice, two supple legs, and pearl-like balls covering its shoulder and back. As the air danced, the moon changed shape, and the stars twinkled, allowing the people to tell time and direction. Taking a sip of water. The people of the East and their Pokemon were grateful to Ea and collected the beautiful round stones from the sea as offerings. The people of the western part of the world tilled the earth with polished stones, grew crops, built villages, and lived there. The sun, which brings abundant harvests, was protected by the goddess of light, Ea. I assume this is different than the other Ea, I would assume. Emerging from the earth with the morning sun was a giant dragon Pokemon. He had thick, muscular limbs and skin that shone like steel. His upper arms glittered like diamonds. As, I guess, Aya walked, the sun grew stronger and brighter, shining warmly everywhere. The people of the West gave thanks to Aya and dug up hard, shining stones from the earth as offerings to her. During those long, peaceful days, the population of the West continued to grow. Eventually, in order to produce more crops, they cut down the forests and carved up the mountains to expand their villages. It happened one time a female Ringuma wandered into the village of the Westerners. Having lost its home, Ringuma stole crops from the field to feed its starving family and attacked one villager. When the people found this out, they were so angry that they killed I'm assuming that means Ringuma. That they killed Ringuma and dumped its body in the forest on the outskirts of the village. Ringuma's husband, a human man who lives in the eastern forest. He went out to look for his wife, who had gone out to look for food and had not returned. He eventually reached the edge of the forest and found his wife's body there. There were many tools I'm assuming he had never seen before stuck into his wife's body. The husband pulled it out in tears, wailing so loudly that the whole area shook. Suddenly, a large group of people wearing different clothes than him appeared from the other side of the forest. In his hand, he held the unfamiliar tool they had used to pierce his wife's body, and his eyes were clouded with rage. The husband picked up his wife's body and fled deep into the forest. When the husband returned to his companions, he lamented over his wife's body, holding the beautiful round stone in his arms. He grew to resent the people who had come from the other side of the forest and had killed his wife. His friends shared his grief and resentment, except for one person, a child whose mother had been murdered. The beautiful round shape of the stone became hideously distorted, and air appeared from beyond the full moon. Air's eyes, consumed with deep sadness, were pale and cloudy. Ea roared in a most sad voice and flew off into the western sky. The moon was stained with blood and the stars were falling. The surroundings were engulfed in darkness and it became as cold as midwinter. The sea and the land froze, and people were unable to move as if time had stopped. Crops stopped growing and quickly rotted. Seeing this, the people of the East and their Pokemon forgot to mourn the slain Ringuma and headed off to the other side of the forest. Only the children who had lost their mothers would go to the highest mountain where the gods lived to mourn their mother's body. On the other side of the forest there were fields of many people. People were motionless due to cold and hunger. The people of the East and their Pokemon ravaged fields and killed the weak. The one who killed the most was Ringuma's husband. Again, I'm assuming Lingma here is referring to the Ringuma from earlier, so I'm saying Ringuma. The people of the West, having had their friends killed and losing the fields they had grown up in, were enraged and clutched the hard, shining stone. This caused him to develop a resentment towards the people who came from the forest. I assume that's them instead of him. Probably another translation. The glow of the hard, shining stone was absorbed and disappeared, and along with the giant sun, Ea appeared, shattering the earth. His eyes were clouded red with deep rage. Ea roared in a terrifying voice and disappeared into the eastern forest. The sun was swallowed by a huge shadow. The area was enveloped in scorching light and heat. The sea dried up and all vegetation withered. Flames spread across the mountain, turning nature, people, and Pokemon to ash, and the area was covered in black smoke. Ringuma's husband was reduced to ashes before anyone else. The two dragon Pokemon continued yelling. The people of the East and West, Pokemon, mountains, and river all died one after the other. The child, carrying his mother's body, reached the top of the highest mountain. Her body had already almost completely decayed, but her clear eyes, beautiful heart, and gentle voice still seemed to convey her personality. When the child looked up to the sky, he heard a sound coming from somewhere. Do you not feel any sorrow for your mother's murder? The child shook his head. Don't you feel any anger towards your mother for being killed? The child shook his head. Do you want to see your mother again? The child nodded gravely. Then the corpse of his mother in front of him began to change rapidly. Her eyes. I'm assuming this is more translation errors, and that this is referring to the body, which is female. Her eyes transformed into a ghost Pokemon he'd never seen before. Her whole body was glowing white, and her eyes were shining like a rainbow. The person called themselves Ray. Ray took a loving circle around the child and then flew off into the northern sky. That heart was reborn into a ghost Pokemon never seen before. Her whole body was like a golden mist, with a rainbow ball shining in the center. This person called himself I. I was wrong earlier then. I lovingly encircled her child before flying off into the southwestern sky. The voice reincarnated into a ghost Pokemon he'd never seen before. Its whole body was smoky and hazy, with a huge mouth revealing a rainbow of sparkling teeth. This one introduced itself as Hal. Or Hi. No, Hi. Hi took one loving circle around the child and then flew off into the southeastern sky. As the three flew off, the sound came again. As the three flew off, the sound came from the sky again, a very gentle sound. The child felt his mother's loving gaze from the direction of the clear lake. The child felt the warmth of his beloved mother from the direction of the beautiful lake. The child heard his beloved mother's voice from the direction of the calm lake. The children prayed along with the music. The surroundings trembled and sound spread rapidly. The sounds of prayer enveloped the forest and the village, and people. Pokemon, trees, and all minerals began to pray together. The world was filled with the sound of prayer. In that vortex, the cries of anger and sadness slowly melted away. Ea's cloudy red eyes calmed, and the light and heat subsided. Air's cloudy pale eyes calmed, and everything began to move. The two dragon Pokemon disappeared into the depths of the highest mountain. The trees grew back, and the air became clear. The wind blew, and the murmuring of the river returned. The world regained its lushness. The people of the East and the West were grateful to the children, Ray, I, and Hai, and decided to protect the three lakes of the world. To avoid repeating the same mistake, they divided their habitats by the highest mountain. The sound of prayer that appeased the two gods had been passed down as a song. I assume this would be the song. I'm not going to sing it. Sorry, I can read stuff, but I'm not a good singer, so I'm not going to even try. But I will leave that up for a second if people would like to read through it. There's some notes here as well. Let's see. Star 1 is a total lunar eclipse or meteor, and the 2 is a total lunar eclipse. And then it gives what all the names symbolize. Interesting. So let's see. That one was, I believe, Arceus. So let's see. How dark do I think that one was? In terms of stories I've heard, I'd say this one was not all that dark. I mean, obviously there were people in Pokemon that died a lot. But I wouldn't say it was particularly dark as far as like stories go, because there's definitely some darker stories out there, I would say. I think I'm gonna put the Arceus one down here in D. It's a good story for sure. And it's got a lot of details, but I don't know that in comparison to some of the other stories, it's all that dark. It's definitely got some dark bits, but it's not up there, I would say. So I'm gonna put it down here, I believe. Just want to keep them level. All right. So that was the Arceus story. This is the Octane one. I believe they have a Lapras version that we'll kind of skim through later. Go ahead and get this one read then. So this is PMIS Octane 0714. Back when the boundary between Pokemon and humans was unclear, there was a man in a seaside village. One day, as the man was walking along the beach, he came across a female, I'm just going to say a female, named Octane washed up on the sand. I feel like that's another translation error. Cat, I would assume. The man. Oh, no. And we immediately don't jump into the darker stuff, I guess. Oh, man. The man mated with Octane and threw it into the ocean. The next day, he went to the same place and the same Octane was there. The man also had, we're going to censor that for YouTube, with Octane and threw them into the sea in the same manner. A few nights later, the man had a dream. In the dream, Octane said, "I can't come to you, but I can bring you your baby and mine." The next morning, the man went to the place where he had met Octane. There was a boy there. The man took the child home and raised him. Time passed. The boy grew into a young man, and his father died. The young man was always alone. One day, as the young man was walking along the beach, he saw a large group of people playing in the distance. Everybody was dancing with a very large sword in their hands. The young man approached the people. Then he saw some I almost said sharks frolicking on the shore. When the young man tried to get closer, the shark haters all jumped into the sea at once. However, one Sharpedo did not leave immediately, but instead looked around 3 times before leaving. When he went to the place where Samahada and the others had been playing, he found a large sword lying there. It had a shape he had never seen before and was very sharp. The young man took the sword home with him. The next day, the young man took his sword and went to the forest. While walking through the forest, he came across a ring bear. The young man tried slashing at Ringma's mouth with his sword, and the mouth fell off easily. Oh man. This time he tried poking Ringuma's eye with the sword. The eye was easily destroyed. Finally, the young man stabbed Ringuma in the chest with his sword. Ringuma died instantly. That day, the young man killed 30, I'm going to assume Ringumas. Goodness, he went on an absolute slaughter. Holy cow. From then on, the young man always carried a sword with him and would play with it by trying to injure any Pokemon he came across, or by cutting off parts of their bodies. So he's sadistic. just a little. Oh, goodness. One autumn, the young man got lost while looking for firewood. After walking for a while, he came across a ring bear's den. When he looked, he saw an old ring bear lying inside. I'm gonna guess a Ringma. The old Ringma looked at the young man and said, "Come in." The young man hesitated, but as it was getting dark outside, he went into the hole. Soon people began to enter the burrow one after another. Soon the room was filled with people. I looked and I saw that he looked and saw that all their faces were covered with scars, and some of them had no eyes. People were chattering, but the young man ignored them and went to sleep. One day he woke up and found an old Ringma sleeping next to him. The young man fell asleep again. When he woke up again, there were many people there and they were talking about something. The young man ignored them and went back to sleep. When spring came, the old Ringma said, "Do you want to go home?" "Well, we will send you home. When you get home, you will soon find a whaler near the village. Go there. We will send a man. You put down your sword and take the witnesses. Why did you do such things? Cut off your face and your nose." Or, I'm not sure if that's a translation error. He might be asking about him cutting off theirs. The old Lingma walked the young man to the village. When he returned to his village, the young man told the people all that had happened. The next morning, the young man took the villagers and headed for the coast. As he was walking along the beach, he saw a large whale of the whale, and there was a little bear on the beach nearby. When the little bear noticed the young man, it hid in the forest, and a large ring bear came out in its place. As Ringma charged at him, the young man tried to draw his hidden sword. However, the sword got caught and could not be removed, so the young man grabbed on to Ringma. The young man and Ringma grappled and punched each other in the face. They strangled each other with all of their might. Then, with each of them losing their breath, they collapsed on top of each other. When the villagers returned, they told the people what they had seen. I guess that's the end of that one. That one, I don't know. I don't know if that one. No, that one was definitely darker. I would definitely say it's darker. I was gonna say I wasn't sure if it was too much darker, but then I remembered that he basically went on a psychopath torture run. So, my goodness. That's the Octane one. I think I'm probably gonna put that one at least in. I want to say B, because I think some others later will be darker. So I believe this one would probably go best in B, I would say. All right. The next one is, I believe, Rapidash. I believe so. I believe it is. So this one is Plymouth Gallop 0714. Let me take a drink real quick. A long time ago, the boundaries between humans and Pokemon were unclear. At the foot of the mountain, there was a grassland and a large lake, and two men lived on the west and east sides of the lake. The two men made a living by hunting Pokemon. The man living in the west may not be a skilled warrior, but he is a man who follows the rules of hunting well. The man who lived in the east was a skilled hunter, but he neglected the rules of the hunt. One day, a man living in the west went out hunting and saw a galloping tiger in the prairie. I believe this is another translation error because it says tiger and then it says a mane. So I'm assuming that's a mix up. Her lush mane shone even more beautifully in the sunlight. Gallop, Gallop said as. Oh, I'm messing this part up. It's not reading right. I assume as is an accidental inclusion. Gallop, said the man from the west as he readied his bow. Now, we have children. If I die, there will be no more of us on this plain. The man from the west lowered his bow and said, Then I won't kill you. I just want that beautiful mane. So I want you to be my wife. Oh no. Why do they just jump to this immediately? He's like, he's about to hunt this thing for sport. And then now he's like, oh, be my wife instead then. Oh my goodness. Oh man. Gallop became the wife of a man living out west. About 2 months passed, and Ponita could be seen in the grassland. A man living in the west was riding his wife Gallop across a prairie. Eventually, they reached a place where many Gallops and Ponitas were resting, and his wife said, They are my husbands. Hunt them if you must. Treat them well, and they will not die. However, do not kill the female Gallop and Ponita. Female Gallop is my sister, and Ponita is my child. So you see, female Gallop is your stepsister, and Ponita is your child. A few days later, the man living in the east went out hunting. When he went out to the grassland, he found Ponita there. The man quickly shot an arrow, bringing Ponita down. While searching for more prey, he came across Gallop. It was a female galloping. Gallop tried to say something, but the man from the east ignored him and shot an arrow. A man living in the east cut the mane of a galloping ox from its body after killing it. He then wrapped it around his head and headed home. Seems like the translation mixing up again. Wanting to show off her beautiful mane to the man living in the west. Eventually, tired from walking, the man from the east decided to rest under a large tree by the lake. A man living in the west and his wife Gallop were walking along the lake when they saw Gallop's mane in the shade of a large tree. He's a male. He doesn't have any kids, so you can hunt him if you want. His wife said so, so he shot an arrow at Gallop. When he ran over to his kill, he found a man from the east lying on the ground with a galloping mane wrapped around his head. Take this mane and go home with me, and when you go hunting Gallop, do as I say. With that, Gallop said goodbye to the man living in the west and left for the plains. Oh my goodness. What did I just read, man? That was a wild one. Uh that was, I believe, the Rapidash one. Um I think we're gonna put that one in A, honestly. And some of these are just wild. Is this like stuff you would expect to be seen from like a fan story site, I think? Oh my goodness. Ah, all right. So that was the Panita one. We put that one in A. The next one, sorry, not Panita one. Rapidash. I think this next one is Panita. I believe so. So we'll go ahead and get this one going. This is Plymouth Centaur. There was a family of hunters. His family consisted of his elderly father, mother, older brother, and younger sister. You can tell when I take a drink. It's so obvious. My mother, his mother and sister went out to the forest to gather nuts as usual. His father and brother went out hunting as usual. As usual, he crossed the mountain and came out into the field where he found a single rapidash. Okay. The centaur charged towards the two with incredible force. The frightened brothers stood there frozen. His father jumped in front of the toros to protect his brother and was injured. However, his father quickly shot an arrow and the centaur fell to the ground. When his father approached his prey, the first thing he did was cut off his antlers. I would assume that's a mistranslation of horns. Then he said a prayer and threw it into the air. Then, cutting away the skin and flesh with a large knife, he said to his brother, "If you ever hunt down a centaur, always cut off its horns first, and don't forget to pray." The next day, his brother and sister went to the forest to gather nuts as usual. His elderly father was injured, and there was still some prey he had killed yesterday, so he told him to rest. However, the older brother, wanting to become independent as soon as possible, went out hunting. When he entered the mountains, he found a single otter. The older brother quickly fired an arrow and killed Itachi. Just as his father had taught him long ago, his brother cut off the tail of the otter he had hunted, said a prayer, and buried it in the ground. Then he cut up the skin and meat and set off again, deeper into the mountains. As he was washing the sword he had used to butcher the Itachi at a lake, halfway through the forest, Morel appeared by the lake. The older brother quickly readied his bow and fired an arrow, bringing Morel down. Following his father's lesson, the older brother cut off the tail of the rough lizard he had killed, offered a prayer, and buried it in the ground. Then he cut up the skin and meat and set off again, deeper into the mountains. When he crossed the mountain and came out into the field, there was Otachi again. I'm not sure if this is another Pokemon or it's Tauros, like they said earlier. I'm not sure. The older brother quickly shot an arrow, but it missed, and Otachi fled. As he walked through the field, he came across a single centaur. I guess it's different then. The older brother quickly fired an arrow and brought the centaur down. When his father approached his hunted prey, the first thing he did was cut off its horns and then say a prayer. Then they offered prayers and buried the body in the ground. Then he cut up the skin and meat and returned home. When they arrived home late at night, they found the entire house ransacked. There were centaur prints everywhere. His father was lying on the ground at the back of the room. His father said, "Because you broke your promise to the centaurs, the women grew horns and became centaurs. Female centaurs are half human. If you cut off their horns, they become human. But if you let them grow, they become centaurs. But now the two of you have both become centaurs." The next morning, when the father and son went to the field, they found two rapidashes there. When they saw them, they ran ran off across the field. Okay. I guess that one was actually the Rapidash one. I got it mixed up a little bit, so we can swap those around. I don't know exactly how dark that one was. I don't think it was all that dark. Let me go ahead and get them swapped out. Like I was saying. Um, there wasn't a whole lot that got dark in that, I feel like. Obviously, the females transformed into Pokemon because they broke the hunt rules. But beyond that, I don't know that it was all that dark. Say it was even less dark than the Arceus one. So I'm probably gonna put that one in E, to be honest. I would say. I feel like that's about where it would fit. And then, yeah, we'll move on. So this next one, you might recognize the name for. This is the one of the darker ones for sure. I'm I'll still read through it, I think, as best I can, but I might out some of the bits, to be honest, just for you two. Get another drink before I start this one. So this is P-Myth Typhoon, which is uh, the Typhlosion one. A long time ago, when the boundary between Pokemon and humans was unclear, once upon a time there was a village. One day, a girl from the village went to the mountains to collect firewood. The girl found some dry, dead leaves. My goodness, I'm tripping up on that sentence. Let me restart. The girl found some dry, dead trees deep in the mountains, so she went deeper and deeper. When she woke up, the sun was setting, and the girl had lost her way. There was a takufu drop. There was takufu droppings all over the place, which made the girl feel uneasy. Then a man was seen washing up on the other side of the forest. The man's face was unlike any other man in the village, but he was very handsome. Are we sure that's a man? We'll see about that. The man said, "You must be lost. I know the way down the mountain, but it will take you there by midnight if you walk like that. I'll bring you back tomorrow morning, so why don't you stay and rest at my place tonight?" The girl had no choice but to do as the man said. The man took the girl's hand and started walking. As the sun was setting, we came to a large cave. "This is my house. You must be hungry. Wait for me." Saying this, the man went out of the cave. A short time after the man left, a red light appeared in the distance on the mountain, and the sound of trees swaying could be heard. Soon, the man returned with a large load of red nuts. "After I eat this, I'm going to sleep. Even if you wake up before me, don't look at me." When the girl woke up the next morning, the man was still asleep. The girl kept her promise to the man and continued to wait, but eventually fell asleep again. The girl was woken up by the man's voice. When she looked outside, the sun was already setting. "Let's eat some green fruit today. Wait for me." And with that, the man went out of the cave. A short time after the man left, a red light appeared in the distance on the mountain, and the sound of trees swaying could be heard. When the sun had completely set, the man returned home bearing a large load of green nuts. The man said, "After I eat this, I'm going to sleep. Even if you wake up before me, don't look at me." The girl said that she wanted to go home quickly because her family was worried about her. The man yawned loudly and smacked the girl on the head. Then the girl completely forgot about her family and her home. Then they both ate the green fruit and fell asleep. He just memory wiped her. Holy cow. Okay. The next day they woke up again as the sun was setting. The man went to gather nuts, and the two of them ate them and went back to sleep. Living like this continued, and eventually the girl realized that the man was Bakupun. As winter approached, Bakupun dug deeper into the cave and said to the girl, "Go and gather some firewood. Break off the top branches of the tallest tree you can find, or tallest trees you can find." The girl tried to do as Bakupun asked, but she was afraid of tall trees, so she could only climb low ones. After collecting some branches and returning home, Bakupun said, "No, we have to be on a higher branch, or else the humans will see us." As the snow began to fall, the two of them slept in the depths of the deepening hole. There was plenty of food. She woke up every now and then to eat, and then to sleep again. One day, the girl woke up and found a child in her arms. Oh boy. That takes some certain things. Oh boy. After several days and nights had passed, the girl woke up and Bakufun said, "Your father is looking for you, but you're my wife, so I can't give you back. I have to fight him." The girl said, "Please stop. Please don't kill my father. How can I live with you after killing my family? You're a good person, so let's stay here and sleep." "Okay, I'll sleep here," the man nodded. The next night, Bakufun woke the girl up and said, "Your father is nearby. Go and look outside." When the girl went outside, a snowstorm was blowing around her. She climbed a low tree and broke its branch. When they returned to the cave, Bakifun was singing a song that they had never heard before. You have broken the branch. Your father will be here shortly. Now I am going to do something bad to your father. If you kill me, you can have my eyes, my voice, and my heart. Then I want you to build a fire where I was killed and let it burn. I want you to sing this song until it burns out. The girl said, Please stop. You're going to kill my father. Please stop. Let yourself be killed. Goodbye. We will never meet again. I assume that's Bakifun saying that last line. That said, Bakifun went outside. After a while, a loud noise was heard, and the girl peeked outside. Then it was revealed that the girl's father had killed Bakifun. The girl ran outside and told her father, Your father killed your son. I have lived with him until now. He is my husband. Please give me my husband's eyes, heart, and voice, Bakifun. The girl built a fire at the place where Bakifun had been killed and poured her eyes, heart, and voice into the flame. I assume his, as in the Bakifun. Probably translation error again. And while it was burning out, she sang the song she learned from Bakifun. The girl's father built a hut on the outskirts of the village and put the girl and her child in it. Eventually, spring came. The young men in the village often teased and abused the girl and her child. It got worse day by day, and at one point they tried to cover it with the fur of a Tyrannosaurus rex. The girl returned home and complained to her parents. Tell the villagers not to make fun of us. If we wear those skins, we'll surely turn into Bakufuns. Even now, I'm half dead. Even when the parents tried to explain it, the people in the village would not listen. On the contrary, they became even more amused and covered the girl and her child with Tyrannosaurus furs. The girl and her child then howled loudly and disappeared into the depths of the forest. The two never returned. That's how people found out Bakufun is half human. Okay. Well, that's that one. That would be Typhlosion. I would say that one's pretty dark. There's a lot of themes in that one that are definitely not light. Not light at all. So I'm probably going to put that one up here. It's definitely one of the heavier stories out of them, for sure. So that one I think deserves that position. I think I'm gonna skim through this next one because it's mostly a reread of the Octane one. It's just about Lapras, or sorry, Laplas is the file name, but it's about Lapras. You get what it is. So we'll kind of just skim through this one. So it's basically about the same. It's all the same, I'd say. Uh, the Sharpedo's in the water, finding the Lapras from the start at the beach. Apparently, I guess fishing some Magikarp is a bit different. He still tortured Ringumas again. Yeah, that is about the same. Actually, oh no, it's really the same, just different names. Uh, yeah, we'll just put that one I think on the same level as the Octane one because I mean it's the same stuff. So I would say just put that with the Octane up here on B. I think there's two more stories for these. It's Ringmas mostly. This is P-Myth Ringma 1. There was a forest at the foot of a mountain, and two brothers lived at its base. Drink some water real quick. There we go. The two of them made a living by catching nuts and ringtails. The trees only bore fruit during the short summer months. In winter, they withered and were covered in deep snow. During the summer, Ringuma was as small and weak. Was During the summer, Ringuma was a small and weak Himiguma, but in the winter he grew into a large and strong Ringuma. Eating the meat of the Ringuma gave him great strength, or gave them great strength. Ringuma's fur was warm, and by wrapping it around their body, they could withstand even the harshest of cold. The one brother was an expert hunter and brought home game every day, summer and winter. The younger brother was not a skilled hunter and only brought home nuts. One hot summer day, the younger brother went out into the forest. There was a beautiful ring bear in the forest. His lush fur shone beautifully in the sunlight. Lingma said, as his brother readied his bow, "Why do you need my fur on a day when the sun is shining so brightly? Why do you need my meat when there's plenty of fruit here? Your brother killed my family, so there are no more females in this forest but me. When I die, we're gone." The younger brother lowered his bow and said, "Well, I won't kill you, but I want to be near that beautiful fur. I want you to be with me." Lingma became the brother's wife. The younger brother and Ringma went around picking nuts together. Ringma told the younger brother the locations of a fruit that no one knew about. In turn, the younger brother told the Ringumas the days when his older brother would go out hunting. During the summer, the brothers never ate the meat of the teddy bear or the ring bear. When winter finally came, Ringuma appeared before the younger brother with a male. Ringma said, "They have already become my children, so let them become your livelihood, my brothers." The young brother killed his friend, skinned him, carved up the meat, and buried the remains in the earth along with some tree seeds. When the younger brother and Ringma offered a prayer of thanks, the snow parted and a small bud appeared. Thanks to the catch that the younger brother brought home, the brothers neither drank nor starved. However, the older brother was not happy that only his younger brother always brought home the prey. One snowy night, the brother went out hunting. Deep in the forest at the foot of the mountain, a ring-eared bear was digging through the snow searching for food. It was the younger brother's wife, Ringu. Its lush fur glowed. I'm tripping up so bad. Its lush fur glowed faintly in the moonlight, making it appear incredibly gigantic. Ringma said as his brother readied his bow, "You won't be hungry because your brother has brought home some meat. You won't freeze to death thanks to the fur your brother brought home." The older brother fired the arrow regardless. The older brother returned home with his catch. When the younger brother saw the beautiful fur and meat his older brother had brought back, he ran outside. The surprised older brother chased after him and found the younger brother standing in front of the corpse of the Linguma he had killed. The corpse, stripped of its beautiful fur and flesh, only had its eyes, heart, and voice remaining. That seems like a recurring thing for these stories. The younger brother picked them up and disappeared into the depths of the forest. The older brother called out to his younger brother several times, but he never came back. So that was the first one of those two. I believe that's the larger Ringuma. I'd say that one was probably a good C. It's dark to an extent, but I don't think it's quite as dark as the torturing Pokemon and psychopath murdering that went on for these two up on the Octane and Lapras. But it's definitely darker than the other two below it, for sure. There is one more story. I'll go ahead and get that one read pretty quick. Pimith Ringma 2. There was a village. The best hunter in the village went out hunting once and caught 10 ring bears and many more dwarf bears. His wife skinned the ring bears and the teddy bears that her husband had caught, then butchered the meat and sold it.